So, starting with today's lecture. In today's lecture, we are going to discuss the examination of the patient, the continued part of the chapter number 23. In previous lecture, we studied the lecture 23, that is the examination of the patient from Kant's philosophy. And today we are continue this part with the topic number 24, the examination of the patient from Kant's philosophy. Now, in this going forward, first we will revise what we studied in previous class, that is in the chapter number 23. So in chapter number 23 it is depend on the references given on the aphorism number 84, and in this it is mainly regarding the recording of the symptoms, and for recording of the symptoms there are mainly three sources, that is patient himself, then attendant, and third physician himself. And from these three sources we collect the signs and symptoms of the patient, and we do the examination of the patient, or we record the symptom of the patient. So in this the recording of symptoms is important. So in this chapter, that is chapter number 23, we discuss about, that is record the symptom in patient language only. That is, if you want to record the symptoms from patient, these symptoms should be recorded in patient language only. And in this also, while you are using the synonym while recording the symptoms, that is synonyms for the patient's complaints, you must be careful. And for this reason Dr. Kent give the example of, that is of menses, that is monthlies, or show that word can be used by the patient, but the synonym, the most accurate you have to use, that is the menses. But while using the synonym you must be careful, as the idea or the meaning of that word cannot be changed. Then nextly Dr. Kent explained as the record in such a manner that it can be readable, that what you recorded the signs and symptoms of the patient, that signs and symptoms can be readable. Then in next para they explain about, that is the format of recording the symptoms, that is the format of recording the symptoms. And in format of recording the symptoms, it can be one page is divided into three columns and record the symptoms accordingly. Then nextly Dr. Kent explained about, that is ask a question to a close attendant, that is while recording the symptom from attendant, it must be necessary that the question can be asked to the close attendant, that attendant must know each and everything about the patient. But while recording the symptom from attendant, the physician must be careful and he take note of that, that is the important to decide the truthfulness of attendant, that is while recording the symptom from attendant it is necessary to check out or to decide the truthfulness of that attendant, as attendant not be so anxious, or attendant don't have too much interest in the patient, or he should not exaggerate the symptom of patient. For this reason the physician must cross check the symptoms told by the attendants with the patient, or by the observation. Then nextly the physician done the observation and record the symptoms. Then in next para, Dr. Kent explained about, that is careful examination is necessary while you are practicing homeopathy, or you are doing the homeopathic practice. While recording the case, you must be careful, or a careful examination of a patient is necessary. So in this, if you neglect making a careful examination, the patient will be the first sufferer, but in the end you yourself will be sufferer from it, and the homeopathy also. So if you cannot record the symptom properly, you cannot take the examination of a patient properly, in this the first sufferer is patient, but along with patient you also get suffer, and along with you the homeopathy also gets suffer. So the future of homeopathy, it depends upon the physician. So physician must be good physician as he record or he examine his patient carefully. Then in next para, Dr. Kent explained about, that is, don't ask the leading question to the patient that answers as a yes or no. The leading question should not be asked to the patient, or the questions which is formed by you gives the answer yes or no. These questions are wrong questions. So you must do the practice of asking the question to the patient while you are in a student life, or during the life of your BHMS course. You must do the practice of taking the case of number of patient, and when you do the practice of taking the case, you must be a good physician in the future. So in this, along with this, Dr. Kent also explained that, that is, while examining the patient, you must have the proper knowledge of anatomy and the physiology. As a medical student, you must have a proper knowledge of anatomy and physiology, and that cannot be skipped. So it is important to have the knowledge of anatomy and physiology, and along with this, you must do the practice of taking the case in a student life only. As you failed in a student life, it will be failed to you in a future. So please do the practice of taking the case of number of patient in student life only. Now this is the chapter number 23. Now in today's lecture we are going to discuss the chapter number 24, and this is the continued part of the same topic, that is the examination of the patient, and how Dr. Kent explained different views of case taking according to him in this chapter. So we started with chapter number 24, the examination of the patient. So in this, the examination must be continued with due respect to the nature of the sickness and with due respect to the nature of materia medica. As we are examining the patient, the examination must be continued with due respect to the nature of sickness and with due respect to the nature of the materia medica. Means, while examining the patient, you must give respect to the sickness. That is, we are taking the case, or we are examining the sick person or the sickness of that person. So you do due respect to the nature of a sickness and with due respect to the nature of materia medica, as we are recording the sign and symptoms of a disease condition of a man, and that disease condition of a man can be matched with the medicines that are available in a materia medica. So while examining the patient, you must have a respect to the that disease condition also, and to the materia medica, means the medicine also, as on the basis of this sickness and medicine we have matched this similarity and give that medicine to the patient, and that will bring a cure in your patient. So you must give the respect to your nature of the sickness and the nature of the materia medica. Now some symptoms have reference to pathology and diagnosis, while others have reference only to the materia medica, and symptom must be constantly weighed in the mind in order to establish their grade, whether common and peculiar. That is, while you are collecting the symptoms, in these symptoms, the symptoms have references to pathology. That is, some of the symptoms are related to the pathology and some of the symptoms are related to the diagnosis, while others have references only to the materia medica, and there are some symptoms which can have only references to the materia medica, means the remedy which we select. Then the symptom must be constantly weighed in the mind or in order to establish their grade, whether common or peculiar. So when we are collecting the symptoms, in that symptoms we give the value to that symptoms, and that value to the symptoms is mainly depend upon whether the symptom is common or the peculiar. As common symptoms are important for the diagnosis of the disease condition and peculiar symptoms are important for the diagnosis of patient to select the homeopathic remedy. Now, if all are found to be a common symptoms, the materia medica is left out. Either the examination has not been made with respect to the materia medica or the symptoms are not there at all. So in this, if we are examining the patient, in this we found, or if all are found to be common symptoms, the materia medica is left out. That is, if we are collecting the symptoms or examining the symptoms, and in this you find only the common symptoms, then in that condition the materia medica is left out, as on the basis of common symptoms you can make the diagnosis of disease, but you cannot make the diagnosis of patient, or you cannot find the exact remedy from the materia medica to your case. So the materia medica is left out, and in this, what are the different reasons that you cannot find the peculiar symptoms or you only find the common symptoms? So in this, either the examination has not been made with respect to materia medica, as while you are examining the patient, it has not been made with respect to the materia medica. You cannot find the peculiar symptoms, or physician lacks in finding the peculiar symptoms, that is without respect to the materia medica, or the symptoms are not there at all, or the peculiar symptoms are not present in a case and there is only the presence of a common symptoms. These may be the two possibilities that leads to the only appearance of a common symptoms, and in this way the materia medica is left out. So in this, it is makes no difference as far as cure is concerned. It matters not whether they are not present in the case or whether the doctor is not found them. The key to the prescription is not present. But if the image is round and full and complete, there are symptoms with regard to pathology, diagnosis, prognosis and materia medica. It will be proper later to talk of incurable diseases, pathognomic symptoms, obscure cases, materia medica symptoms, etc. So in this, there is no matter as you not finding the peculiar symptoms or you find only the common symptoms. That is, it makes no difference as far as cure is concerned. It matters not whether they are not present in a case or whether the doctor is not found them. The key to the prescription is not present, but what is actually in the hand of physician, that is, there is no any key to the prescription. You cannot give the prescription to the patient only on the basis of a common symptoms. But if the image is round and full and complete, that is, if the examination of a patient is done in a very well way, if the case is in your hand is complete case, then there are symptoms with regard to pathology, and in this complete case you will find the symptoms that are related to the pathology, that are related to the diagnosis, and that are related to the prognosis, and also related to the materia medica. So it is in your hand if you find the complete case. So in this, it will be proper later to talk of incurable diseases, pathognomic symptoms, obscure cases, materia medica symptom, etc. So in next part they will talk about that is of incurable diseases. Then in next para, Dr. Kent explain about, that is, when the physician comes to look over the record after an examination to get the image to classify and arrange it, he will find what is peculiar and those symptoms that are most general and those that are but common. These three grades appear in every complete case and in every complete proving of a remedy. That is, after recording the case, the physician, that is, after an examination to get the image to classify and arrange it. That is, after recording the case, while analyzing the case, the physician has to form the image of that case, and in this he has to classify the symptom into as a general symptom and as a common symptom, and in this the three grades appears in every complete case. That is, you find there are three grades of symptoms in every complete case and in every complete proving of a remedy. That is, while you are proving the remedy, you will find the three grade of symptom also, and in a complete case also you find the three grade of symptoms. Then homeopathic study and observation will enable to pick out these grades at a glance. That is, the homeopathic study and observation can enable you to pick out these grades at a glance if you are doing the practice of taking the case and examining the patient. This homeopathic study and observation will enable to pick out these grades at a glance. Then every case has common symptoms, but peculiar symptoms may be absent, and you must not expect to cure when peculiar symptoms are absent. That is, every case has a common symptoms, but peculiar symptoms may be absent. If you have case and in that case you have a common symptoms, that is, each and every case has a common symptoms, but in some cases the peculiar symptoms may be absent, and you must not expect to cure when the peculiar symptoms are absent. But when in your case the peculiar symptoms are absent, you cannot you cannot expect a cure from this case as which having only the common symptoms. Homeopathy is applicable in every curable case, but the great thing is to know how to apply it. That is, you know that homeopathy is applicable in each case, in every curable cases, but the great thing is to know how to apply it. But it is important to know, that is, how to apply the homeopathy in each and every case. So in this, the physician must sit in judgment upon the symptoms and determine whether they are peculiar or common. So physician must understand which are the peculiar symptoms and which are the common symptoms. If the patient discourse is incoherent, the question arises, is he intoxicated or delirious, or is there breaking down of the brain and insanity? The flash of the eye is important. It will tell things that cannot be told by the nurse. So there are some changes in the patient that can be noticed by the physician on the basis of his knowledge only. There are some things which cannot be told by the nurse, that is, the patient having this and a patient having that. There are some things which can be noted by an intelligent physician with his knowledge of each and everything. So it is important that the physician must observe the patient carefully. Then in next para, Dr. Kent explained as it is important for the physician to know the value of expression. That is, the physician must know the value of expression or value of signs that can be uh, seen in the patient. So in this, when the patient stares with glassy eye, is he injured about the head? Is he suffering from the shock, intoxication, or a typhoid fever? Now, here Dr. Kent explained one example, that is how the signs are important. That is, for the importance of sign that can be seen only the intelligent physician, and on these signs he can make the correct diagnosis of that case. So in this, it is important for the physician to know the value of expressions. That is, when the patient stares with glassy eye, one patient is there and he stares with a glassy eye, only there is staring with a, that is, glassy eye appearance, and is he injured about the head? Now what are the differential diagnosis in that case? He is having a head injury, he is suffering from a shock, or he is having some toxication, or he is having some typhoid fever, or some diseases that is related to the mind. What is the differential diagnosis of this patient? So in this case, the differential diagnosis they given as that may be having a head injury, that may having a suffering from shock, that may having a intoxication, then typhoid fever or some disease in which the mind is sterned. So what may be the condition of patient present? That is, patient having the symptom as patient stare with glassy eye. Now in this, the physician immediately proceed to ask, how long has patient been in a bed? When physician look at this sign, that is patient stares with glassy eye, in that case the physician immediately proceed to ask, how long has the patient been in a bed? That is, from how much time he is in a bed. If the character is above reproach, he will not suspect intoxication, as the patient is from a long duration in a bed. In that case, you cannot told that the patient is having a intoxication, so intoxication can be ruled out. If the patient has sick for many days with fever excuse me, with fever, tongue coated, abdomen sensitive, etc., he is fully entered upon the course of typhoid fever. And along with these symptoms, if the patient having the that is sick from many days with fever, tongue coated, abdomen sensitive, etc., then it can be entitled as a typhoid fever. Then the next is, the physician must know immediately upon entering the room what is the state of a patient resembles. So what the patient state is resembles, as it is related to the apoplexy, or it is a coma, or it is a opium poisoning, etc. Now physician can think of, that is of apoplexy, coma and opium, etc. A physician is supposed to set his mind to work instantly to ascertain the condition of a patient and what relation the symptom maintain to the materia medica. Now, the physician's mind goes continuous work or in work instantly to ascertain the condition of the patient and what relation the symptom maintain to the materia medica. If an opium poisoning, there must be selected an antidote. That is, if the condition is of a opium poisoning, in that case the physician has to select some antidote for that case. If apoplexy, a careful taking of a symptom in relation to the cerebral clot to prevent inflammation and symptoms related to that state and relative to the remedy. So in that case, if there is apoplexy, in that case the physician has to do the examination or careful taking of the symptoms in relation to some cerebral clot is present to prevent the inflammation and the symptoms relative to that state and relative to the remedy. So in that respect, physician has to think about their remedy. Then the patient may be intoxicated and have apoplexy. At the same time, there is no symptom in the sick room without its value, especially in acute and serious cases. So this may be the differential diagnosis of that case. And in this, the children are sometimes found in a sound sleep and cannot be aroused. The mother says the child has worms and gives Sina. So in that case, if patient is in a sound sleep and cannot aroused, that is, he cannot aroused by anything, in that case the mother says the child has worms and gives the Sina. That is, child has a worm and she gives her Sina. For Sina has all these symptoms, that is stupor, difficulty in arousing, falling back to sleep, but the child fails going to coma. Sina, Sina can work and the patient goes into the state, that is of coma. Fails going into the coma, the nose flaps and the chest heaves, the brow is wrinkled, there is a rattling in the chest showing the child is going into cerebral congestion. The physician now must examine on every side of a case to find out the nature, to know what to expect. So in these type of cases, when the well selected remedy cannot work, in that case, and the patient is go in a severe condition, in that case the physician must do the proper selection of a remedy. Yes, can I audible? Okay. In between there is some range problem. So in this way, if the condition goes worse, in that condition the physician has to examine the patient very carefully, and he has to do the each and every examination with respect to that disease condition. That is, the physician now must examine on every side of a case to find out the nature, to know what to expect and what to do in that case. He has to find out. Now, he who neglects this is not a true homeopathic physician, and if at that condition physician neglects the patient, this is not a true homeopathic physician. A mere superficial application of homeopathy is not sufficient, as mere only, that is superficial selection of remedy or application of homeopathy is not sufficient in that cases. That is, you have to examine properly, and you have to see each and every side of the case and select the proper homeopathic remedy for these cases. After all the symptoms are written out, the physician must study the character of fever, whether it is intermittent, continued, or has come on in one sudden attack. He must know sufficient of the symptoms to judge all these. You will learn so much about the aspect of every motion of the human being that you will place less and less reliance on diagnostic symptom as diagnostic symptoms, and learn more the value of symptoms as symptoms. That is, you cannot neglect only the common symptoms on the basis that these are not important for the case, but the common symptoms are also important for the diagnosis of a case. And if you know the proper diagnosis of case, you can know about the prognosis of case, and you can handle that case very well. So while doing the examination, each and everything is important regarding the patient, and it will lead to the selection of a proper remedy and for the proper management of a patient. Then you will be astonished to find how expert you will become about diagnosis and prognosis by studying the symptoms. Now you become the expert when you are doing the practice of diagnosis and prognosis by studying the symptoms. You can learn something from every case you have mind, but by a process of rapid exclusion, you say it is not to the mind, but by the process of rapid exclusion, you say it is not the cholera, not hemorrhage, etc. That is, if you do the proper practice of examination of a patient, you will become the master in the diagnosis and the prognosis of a case, and it will lead to the rapid cure of the patient. And in this, the process of rapid exclusion, you say it is not into the mind. That is, the process of rapid exclusion is not in your mind, but if by the process of rapid exclusion you say it is not cholera, not hemorrhage, etc., that is, by the rapid exclusion you can very well do the differential diagnosis of the disease condition, and laterally you come to the cause to these aspects, and you will find the exact cause of a disease. Now you can tell when it is time for cardiac compensation to be broken in bright disease. So in that way you can do the very well diagnosis and prognosis of a case. In this, that is, all these symptoms have respect to remedy and to diagnostic condition. So in that condition, that is, you cannot think that this is important in the case or this is not important in a case. That is, each and everything is important in a case, and making the diagnosis is also important. That is, you will do the proper prognosis of a case, and you can tell that the case is curable or incurable. So all these symptoms have respect to remedy and to the diagnostic conditions. So far as there is a morbid anatomy which can account for symptoms, so much less are those symptoms worth, and indicating remedy. If you had no other than such symptoms, you could find no remedy. That is, if that is common symptoms and uncommon symptoms they told about. That is, the common symptoms that are countable by morbid anatomy means what are the changes in anatomy that can be countable, and that we call it as a common symptoms of a disease condition. But what is the uncommon symptoms? That is uncountable by morbid anatomy. If there is changes in anatomy, that we call it as a morbid anatomy, and that cannot be countable. This condition we call it as a uncommon symptoms. So all these symptoms have respect to the remedy and to the diagnostic condition. That is, common symptoms have respect to the remedy and also for the diagnostic condition. So far as there is a morbid anatomy which can account for symptoms, so much less are those symptoms worth as indicating a remedy. If you had no other than such symptoms, you could find no remedy. So among the many things that interfere with the examination of the patient, the most important is taking of medicine or having done something, no matter what it is, that has been capable of changing the symptoms. Now up till now Dr. Kent explained about, that is about the importance of common symptom for the diagnosis of disease, and you can very well do the diagnosis and the prognosis of a disease condition if you practice the making the diagnosis of disease with the help of common symptoms. Now in next para he is going to explain about, that is, if there is interference with some medicines. That is, while you are examining the patient and that symptoms and signs are interfere with some medicines that patient is taking, so what will be the different conditions you face in that condition. So among the many things that interfere with the examination of the patient, the most important is the taking of medicine. That is, patient comes to you with a number of signs and symptoms, but that number of signs and symptoms are interfering with the taking of medicines, that are along with the taking of some medicines or having done something, no matter what it is, that has been capable of changing the symptoms. Very commonly the patient will present himself in a doctor's office, and after giving a long array of symptoms will relate a dose of quinine, and he thinks he is no better, and now he applies to you for relief. That is, at first when the patient is suffering from some symptoms, and that suffering of symptoms that relate to the dose of quinine, that is, patient comes to you after taking the quinine, but that quinine did not give the relief to the patient, and now the patient comes to you for the relief. But now, due to the effect of quinine, what is the actual case of patient, or what are the actual signs and symptoms of a patient, that gets disturbed. Now the patient comes to you for the relief. In acute diseases, this is very bad and may interfere with the finding of homeopathic remedy. And in many of the acute cases, at first patient took some remedy, If that remedy do not give the relief, then the patient comes to a homeopath for the relief. But this is the most difficult task, that the actual picture of a disease get disturbed. So in acute diseases, this is very bad and may interfere with finding of a homeopathic remedy, and it will be difficult to find the homeopathic remedy for these cases. Very often the general state collectively both drug and disease symptoms in a very acute condition must be prescribed for, but in chronic disease the plan is different. But in acute case the patient is already suffering, and for this reason the homeopathic physician must do the totality with the effect of a drug and the original symptoms that are present, and that is state both collectively, that is of drug and that is of disease, and he should prescribe the remedy. काय नाही. Yes, can I audible?
Yes.
So we're discussing, that is, if the patient comes to with comes to you with taking of some medicine in acute cases, what to do? There is no time for wait and watch. And in this condition, if patient comes to you with acute condition with taking of some medicine, in that case you have to take the totality, that is of taking of medicine also, that is the condition which is before, present and after taking of medicine, and you have to find the remedy on the basis of this totality and give to the patient in acute cases, as there is no time for the wait and watch in acute condition. But in chronic disease the plan is different, and in this the symptoms that arise after taking of a dose of powerful medicine are not indicative of a remedy. So if the condition is chronic and patient is taking some medicine or took some medicine and comes to you, in that condition the symptoms which are arise after the taking of a dose of a powerful medicine are not indicative of a remedy, and these symptoms are not the indicative of a remedy. They are the confusing symptoms as they change due to the taking of that powerful medicine. They present no true image of the disease, and hence the physician has nothing to do but wait. That is, in that condition, in the hand of physician there is nothing to do, that after the patient comes to you with taking of medicine, so in that case the true image of a disease, and hence the physician has nothing to do but to wait. In that case the physician has to wait to over the action of that powerful dose, or at most administer a well known antidote to the drug taken. And if the physician know what medicine has patient taken, in that case physician may administer a well antidote drug for antidote to the drug taken. So in that case there may be two possibilities, as physician can wait to complete the action of a previous dose, or he can administer a well known antidote to the drug taken. Sometimes he must wait a considerable time until the symptoms reveal themselves and express the nature of sickness. And if he wait, in that case the express the nature of sickness can be come after some days. It it is just as bad where the physician himself is a bungler as it is where the patient has taken the drug. The confusion arising from bad prescribing is just the same as as that produced by the patient's drugging. So if physician cannot think anything and he prescribe the medicine to the patient, in that case it is the same condition as the patient taking medicine by his own, or the physician giving some medicine without taking the detailed case or without studying the case. Then there are physicians going about who will mix up their cases and continue to prescribe their own drug symptoms, and who never have any idea of waiting for the true image of the disease to develop itself. And if the physician cannot wait for some times and he give the medicine on the present totality, that is of the after taking some medicine in a patient, so the true image of a disease to develop itself, and he do not have any idea of waiting for the true image of the disease to develop itself. So in that case the drugging is only matter of changing symptoms and masking the case. So in that case, if such patient comes to you, that is, drugging is only the matter of changing the symptom or masking the case. Anything that will effect a change in the symptom, the taking of a drug or drinking too much wine or drinking toddy or a great exposure will mask the case. So only the drug cannot mask the case, but along with this, that is anything that will affect the change in the symptoms. That may be anything that will make the change in the symptoms. These are the masking of a case, and this mask must wear away. So you have, as an intelligent physician, you mask must be wear away. So this mask can be removed, and then after, before the intelligent physician can make a cure. If you remove that mask of a drug or any medicine or anything that can change the symptoms, the intelligent physician can make the cure. The whole aim of a physician is to secure the language of nature. It is has been masked by medicine, it cannot be secured. If it is masked by medicine, it cannot be secured. Any meddling will so affect the aspect of a case that the physician cannot prescribe, and the physician who does this meddling must inevitably be driven into the bad methods and into the allopathy. And if he is doing this practice, this is the bad method of practice. I have looked over the work of a bad prescribers and have wondered what on earth they could see in homeopathy to attract them. So Dr. Kent have looked over the work of this bad prescriber homeopath and have wondered what on earth they could see in homeopathy to attract them. So how they attracted towards homeopathy? It is a question before the Kent. They do not cure folks. They have no cure to present. The patient cannot well be satisfied by these things. It is true that once a while a strong, vigorous, robust patient, when he gets a homeopathic remedy, will go on getting well through a maze of symptoms, changing and drugging, so that in spite of this meddlesome practice, he will recover. The physician is that case, in that case, knows not what remedy to attribute to it, for he has given a great many, but only the most vigorous constitution will stand such homeopathic go on and get well in spite of their indulgence in wine, in eating, etc. It is wonderful what their own powers will do in throwing off disease. So this paragraph is relating to the, that is, patient comes to you with taking of some medicine, and how you have to deal with these medicines in acute cases and in chronic cases also. And if you cannot wait and watch for exhaustion of the action of that previous medicine, that will give you the wrong picture of a disease condition, and that will be the fake homeopath, or that homeopath are the bad homeopathic prescribers. And Dr. Kent advised them to see the actual or the natural picture of a disease, and on that natural picture of the disease you have to prescribe the medicine, and this will leads to the great homeopath, or that patient permanently. This is regarding the chapter number 24. In this we finished only the half chapter. In next lecture we will continue with the next half part of this chapter. So I think all of you understand, or any difficulty regarding it? Yes, all of you understand. In this chapter mainly they give regarding the, you have to respect with the nature of sickness and nature of materia medica, then how you can differentiate between common and peculiar symptoms, then importance of common symptoms for the diagnosis of disease condition, and you have to do the practice of diagnosis of disease that can be lead to the prognosis of disease condition also, and for the management of disease condition also. Then in this they explain about, that is, common symptoms can be countable by morbid anatomy, uncommon symptoms are uncountable by morbid anatomy. And in next para they explain about, that is, if patient comes to you with taking of some medicine what to do in acute cases and what to do in chronic cases. So all of you understand, or any difficulty regarding it? So hope all of you understand. So we will stop here. So bye everyone.